Yo, welcome back to Davin Biology. So in this video, we'll be going through Form 5 Chapter 10.1 specifically, which is on threats on environment. Now, so for those of my students, right, I told you this many times before, Chapter 10 actually is, regardless is it the old syllabus or the new KSSM syllabus, right? This chapter actually came out in SPM for 10 years in a row. Like, I think more than 10 years in a row, and usually mainly is in essay lah. Okay, so in this video, I'll go through 10.1 on it. So what's the meaning of threats on environment? Means what did human do to actually spoil, to threaten, to pollute the environment? Yeah, so it's mainly about pollution lah. So again, for my students in class, we already done the first two threats, which is acid rain and also greenhouse effect. So I will for those who are not my students, I will give you free notes for 10.1 lah. All the threads here, I'll put it in the description below. There's a link there so you can go and find it yourself. Yep, so for greenhouse effect and acid rain, right, these two are basically air pollution. Eutrophication is actually water pollution. Now, regardless water or air pollution, right, there are four things you must know. Okay, number one, which is what are the human activities? So what human actually done to cause this pollution? Okay, and of course, what is the pollutants released from this activity? And then number three, how the pollutant cause the pollution, or we will say how the pollutant cause the so-called phenomenon. So the so-called problem, the so-called threat here are also known as phenomena. So that question was really asked, what is the phenomenon? So here, it is called eutrophication. So that is the pollution cause lah. Okay. So, and the fourth one, the most important one, are actually the effects, which will bring you the most marks lah. So, like I said just now, usually we'll be asked in essay question. So 10.1 also usually is essay lah. Alright. So first, when we see an essay question, right? How do we know this essay question whether is it related to eutrophication? Now, very easy, just like the picture over here. Whenever you see a river beside like a farm, okay, let's say that this is an animal farm, got cows and goats, or let's say the river is beside an agricultural plantation. Let's say you have a lot of kelapa sawit or a lot of paddy here, for example. Now, when you see this kind of question, right, it's definitely related to eutrophication. Now, the reason is because farming will use inorganic fertilizers most of the time, like man-made chemical fertilizers, and animal shelter with animal waste. Now, these two is the most common human activities. Now, the remaining one I won't go through in this video. I'll just touch on these two. So these two things that I highlight, right, inorganic fertilizers and animal waste, has a lot of nitrates and phosphate. So these are the pollutants in the inorganic fertilizer and animal waste. Now, how do they end up in the river? It could be due to rain. They wash this substance into the nearby river. Okay, and they say here, as I say here, it will wash into the water ecosystem. See the fertilizers and the waste wash into the water, and causing the water to be rich in nutrients. So this is called eutrophication. Now, why do I say rich in nutrients? Because if you remember plants, Form 5 Chapter 3, right? Nitrates and phosphate are nutrients, are main nutrients for plants to grow. So right now, my river have a lot of these nutrients, so this is called eutrophication. It will cause a certain plant species to grow, which are specifically algae. So algae will start to bloom out, which cause your pond or maybe even your river to become like this. Okay, so this is called algal bloom lah, by the way. So whenever, you might see this before lah. So whenever you see like a water or pond that have a lot of green stuff on it, meaning this water is very dirty lah, of course, it's very polluted. Okay. Yeah, so for this thing, right, usually is the causes. If the question asks you to explain the causes, this is how we explain. You need to mention the human activity, the pollutant, and then how the pollutant lead to this eutrophication, lead to this problem, usually around 3 to 4 marks. So effects, usually, let's say if essay lah, could be around 6 marks. Alright, so the effects are actually very easy. So number one, let's say if this is sorry, my pen not very good recently. So if let's say this is the river or the pond, if you have a lot of algae growing on top of it, the first problem that will happen here is sunlight cannot penetrate. So number one, your plants will be affected because they cannot photosynthesis, they will die. Okay, so let's use black color. So as they die, right, then your water will have lesser and lesser oxygen because they cannot photosynthesis, they die, then there will be no more oxygen in the water because photosynthesis produces oxygen. Look at the first 2 points. Algae restricts penetration of sunlight. Plants cannot undergo photosynthesis, dies. And then oxygen level decreases. So when there's no oxygen, now who will be affected? The fishes lah. Because right, you can see right, here got algae, right, means oxygen cannot dissolve from the air. Plus photosynthesis doesn't occur anymore because your plants are all dead. So your fish, right now, I don't know how to draw fish. So the fish now will start to die. Okay, as they say here, aquatic animals die. So now you have dead animals, dead plants in a river. Bacteria will start to decompose them. As you know, dead bodies are decomposed, are broken down by bacteria. So bacteria will start to decompose them and slowly start to multiply. As time passes, oxygen will even further depleted, means that it will be getting lesser and even lesser to the point whereby now all the surviving fishes will just die off. So right now what happened here is, as oxygen decreases, something called biological oxygen demand increases. So you just have to remember this. Oxygen decrease, BOD will be the opposite. Now what's BOD? Biological oxygen demand, you can remember it like this lah. So bio means living things. Oxygen demand means the oxygen needed by the living things increases. So if there's less oxygen, the demand, they need more oxygen. Right? It's like take away all your money, you no money, you start to demand, you start to require money even more. So the same thing here, no oxygen, you demand more. So remember just the opposite. Okay? And then this river, we will say it will be very polluted because since there's a lot of dead animals inside, a lot of bacteria inside, pollution level will be high. So pollution and BOD will be on the same side lah, means they are proportional. More BOD higher, meaning definitely pollution is higher because there's no oxygen inside. Living things cannot survive at all. Okay, and yep, that's how we describe the effects law. So let's do a few questions. So not just essay, but it will be quite a few tricky structural punya questions as well. So let's look at essay first lah. Okay, question 14. We look at this one here, B. So as I said just now, whenever you see got like farming animals plantation so this fella actually is spraying inorganic chemical kind of fertilizer near a river. So you can see nearby a river, right? So therefore, it's eutrophication this question. Okay, so nearby river got agricultural. So discuss the causes and the effects, 10 marks. Now I'm going to write down the causes for you only because effect is exactly the same like my notes like that so just follow me. Okay, so number one, human activities first. So we can see got animal, got fertilizer. So I can say animal waste and inorganic fertilizers, okay, from this agricultural area will be washed into nearby river. Okay, here I modify a bit compared to my notes in front just now. So now we can say, remember, your animal waste and inorganic fertilizers are basically the human activities here. Next is the pollutant. So I specify on the pollutant. We will say now your river will be rich in nitrates and phosphates. right? A lot of nitrates, phosphate, then mention the phenomenon, mention the problem. So we say this causes eutro, or I can say this leads to, will be better, eutrophication. Okay, and then algae will start to grow, right? So algae growth actually is supposed to be under effect already lah. Then you can say, hence promoting the growth of algae on the surface of the river. Okay, then you continue you block, you restrict the sunlight penetrating to river, plants cannot photosynthesis, die, no oxygen, fish also die, bacteria decompose, start to become more, oxygen decrease even more, oxygen decrease, BOD increase, water becomes polluted. So you're going to round off this whole essay by mentioning the oxygen level further decrease, BOD increase, pollution increase though. Ta-da! Easy, right? Hey, then next. So you can pause and write this down yourself. Then let's go to this structured question here at page 13. Now this is actually a past year questions Selangor paper. Last year only one. So diagram 7.1 shows two human activities that are carried out near a river. And 7.2 shows a graph shows the changes of population of organism at location X, Y, Z in the river. So you can see this river actually is flowing in this direction actually, from X flowing to Y to Z. So here they show you throughout the river the change in population of fish and algae. So you can see at X is whereby you have farming, and then at Z you have a factory, which I'll explain what actually happens here later. So you can see at X, as soon as there's farming, right, fertilizer increases, right, as they say here. So meaning, you can see here your algae increase, fishes decrease slightly. So here increase algae, fish decrease. Let me draw it, make it more clearer. Fish here decreases, algae here decrease. Now actually we follow the arrow here. I'm so sorry, the arrow is like around here. Yeah. And then as I go further away from the river, your fish increases back. Your algae then decrease. Because if I'm further away from the river, the fertilizer all getting lesser and lesser, start to become diluted a bit, then the opposite thing will happen. No? Now your algae won't grow anymore, there will more fish come back. Yeah. So the first two questions, very simple. A, based on diagram 7.2, what happens to the population of algae at location X? So population of algae increase lah. You use your eyes also can see, right? Population of algae increases, right? Because here's where eutrophication occurs. Obviously, algae increase lah. So 1 mark only, increase lah. Name the phenomenon that occur at location X. So the phenomenon here is called eutrophication lah. Right? And next, explain how the phenomenon in 7A2 affects the population of fish in the river. So population of fish. Now this, let's say we assume it's a 3 mark question. 2 mark too easy lah. So of course, if you measure population of fish decrease, you get 1 mark lah. So eutrophication, location X, eutrophication, of course the fish will decrease. So but I don't say fish decrease, so I explain first. So explain here So I first start say, because when got fertilizer, here they say already put in fertilizer So got fertilizer means we'll have a lot of nitrate and phosphate So I start off like that. Increase in fertilizer increases the nitrate and phosphate. So got nitrate, got phosphate means got algae grow So remember we say got algae grow, plant die, lesser oxygen. So here this is structure. I don't need to say because the plant cannot photosynthesis, no oxygen. So I straight go to straight to the point. I say algae increase, no oxygen. No oxygen, no fish lor. Okay, easy Yeah, pause and write. Then explain the changes of organism population at location Y. So here they just say organism population only. They didn't mention whether it's algae or fish, meaning you have to mention both algae and fish, which actually is like over here. You can repeat the same thing, just the balik only right now, because now it's at location Y. So location Y right now is free from and everything, means there's no pollution. So you can see here, it's the balik already. Your fish increase, algae decrease. So it's the opposite thing that happened, because here you have less fertilizer, therefore less nitrate and phosphate. So there are no excess fertilizer, hence lesser nitrates and phosphate in river. And then no nitrate phosphate, no algae lor. Terbalik again, no algae, more oxygen, fish increase lor. Understand Can So again, it's like the same thing that they want from the previous question. So just like terbalik only, because why right now you have no pollution. Okay, even though they just say organism population here, but I mean here I know they just say fish, but in order to explain how the fish population is affected, you could talk about the algae. So here we also mention the algae lor. Yeah, so here the question wants us to mention both. Right? So done already. Then next question, the last one here. Now finally we talk about ZAC, the factory over there. So they say in the industry near location, ZAC has released hot water into the river, causing the dissolved oxygen content in the location to decrease. So actually, this question very good, because usually they won't give you this. You got to own self pandai by then know when the water temperature increases hot, right? Lesser oxygen can dissolve in hot water. So oxygen content will decrease. So how does it affect the population of fish, the question asks? So obviously when there's no oxygen, they already tell you here no oxygen. Very good, this question. So therefore population of fish will decrease. But first off, I begin this question by saying thermal pollution occurs. So sorry here. So yeah, thermal means temperature, means your temperature of the water hot. That's called thermal pollution. So when there's no oxygen, fish decrease. So you mentioned fish decrease is another mark. Why? Because no oxygen, fish cannot respiration. No, the fish die. So that is my explanation. Cannot undergo respiration. Right, so then once we're done, okay, again you can pause and write yourself, and then we come to last question. Now this is an experiment question actually. Now we won't go through the writing experiment and all. I'll just let you know how this experiment is carried out. So this experiment says the table shows results of an experiment related to BOD and several water sources. So what we're going to do here is, right, we're going to see like the oxygen level and also the pollution level in different water sample. Like for example, they will collect water from different places. One from Longkang, one from the river, one from tap water, for example. Now, so let's say I have this water sample here. Oops, water sample. Let's say I have W. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a solution you call methylene blue solution. So this methylene blue solution, right, I will add it into this water sample. And the methylene blue solution will be decolorized. So decolorized means it will change from blue to colorless. Now you can see here, right, different water sample use different time to decolorize. So you just remember, the lower the time taken, means faster the time taken, there will be lesser oxygen in it. Because methylene blue will remain blue if there's oxygen. Means oxygen makes the methylene blue to remain blue. Means when it reacts with oxygen, right, it will produce this blue color. Right? So therefore, when there's no oxygen, when there's lesser oxygen inside it, right, it will become colorless very quickly. Or let's say if there's no oxygen, it colors even faster. So you remember, got oxygen, got blue color, no oxygen, no blue. So you can see between these 4 water sample, right? W is a quarter of an hour, which is 15 minutes, turns colorless the fastest because it got the least oxygen. That's why there's no blue color, right? So it's like briefly answering this question already lah. Which water sample is the most polluted? So actually, this fella here got the least oxygen, means it's the most polluted. Now remember, oxygen less means more polluted. So this fella is number 1, and Z is number 2 because it used 1 hour, and Y is number 3 because it used 3 hours. And the X actually is the cleanest one because it does not decolorize. Meaning, right, there's so much oxygen to the point whereby it keep on remaining blue color. So this actually is the cleanest of all. Understand? So let's go back and do A first. What is the function of methylene blue solution in this experiment? So we can say it is to test the presence of dissolved oxygen. Okay? And then B, which water sample is the most polluted? We already done is W. They want you to explain. Now, here is how we explain. So just now we already said, shorter time, lesser oxygen. So previously in front we mentioned lesser oxygen means higher BOD level, correct? And more BOD means it's more polluted because less oxygen, of course, you have more fish die and all, right? More algae and all. That's why it's more polluted. We also mentioned this already, right? So we're going to use all the things that we mentioned here to explain this question. Okay, so just remember the arrow down, down, up, up. Lesser time, lesser oxygen, more BOD, more pollution. So exactly the same thing I'm going to write here. So we can say W because time. Second point, it takes the shortest time or the fastest time to decolorize the methylene blue. And oxygen, right? So why? So because it has the least dissolved oxygen and highest BOD level. Got it? Then next one. Very easy, 2 marks question. State the relationship between time taken for methylene blue solution to decolorize and the level of water pollution. It's like the same thing again. So now they want time and pollution. So we already have it here. Shorter the time taken, higher the pollution level. So that's what you have to say. So in bio, right, state relationship don't need like physics, what inversely proportional, directly proportional. No. You just explain it out in words. Shorter the time taken, higher the level of pollution. So you should be able to do yourself, just like copy on it. Then since you want 2 marks, so I briefly explain a bit whereby why, like what we mentioned here because oxygen so because it lower time means it has lesser dissolved oxygen. You can say oxygen, you can say BOD for the second point Okay, and I think we will stop here for this video So that's it actually for our 10.1 threats to environment. So specifically, I only focus on water pollution or eutrophication. So as always, if you guys have any question, you can DM me at my Instagram, Davin Biology, or you can even comment at the comment sections below. I'll see you guys real soon in the next video So bye bye.